We're going to try to keep this call pretty concise. Leon and I were just talking about how we'd like to do these pretty frequently, but would actually like to talk about some important matters. And as you all know, crypto moves incredibly fast. So we'll try to keep this bite-sized. We'll do this call. The goal is to be finished by 9:50, so 45 minutes. I'm just going to talk for like 10 minutes on some of the focuses. If you're not in Crypto Collective, like our group, totally cool. I think that the values we're about to talk about are really important to new people joining the industry. All of us have friends that are getting into crypto. And I think it's so important that we educate them the proper way. So I want to go through some of that. Then I'm going to pass it on to Leon. Leon's going to talk about some regulation that we're going to see in ICOs. If you don't know Leon, he is the CCO of AdBank. A lot of people on this call are invested into AdBank. It's one of the top 3 talked about ICOs right now on Twitter. And it's been cool. I mean, he's been someone that Austin, myself, Kanoa, and quite a few people on this call have been learning from. And he definitely is on the side of preparing for regulation. And anyone who says that this is just the wild, wild west, it is true, but it's going to come to an end. And it might even come to an end within the next month or two, especially within 2018. So I think it's going to be really cool to talk about that, how to prepare for that, how to look at coins with strong utility that's actually going to be here in the next year or two, rather than just money grabs. And then we'll go through all of this in like 15 minutes, and then we're going to open it up for some Q&A, some suggestions on different coins. We're going to do a little interview with Matt. He's going to talk to us about salt. We're going to grill him with some questions. That's going to be pretty cool. So without further ado, we'll just kind of jump into it. So first thing, I know everyone has been talking about the fact that crypto is this huge redistribution of wealth, which is absolutely fantastic. But, you know, as we have a lot of friends getting into this, I think it's super important that we educate them on technology. I mean, we all know with some of there's quite a bit of scams going around right now with ICOs and just pump and dumps. And it's very stressful. And I see people get in and get out really quickly and very bitter with the whole process because they're just trying to day trade. And there's a couple of people who do day trade on this call, and I'm not trying to knock that at all. But there's a reason why, you know, it's called hold on for dear life. Whenever people get into this, it's much more important that we teach them what is something that's going to actually disrupt an industry. And what's cool, and I think that's unique about crypto, is it's almost like Wall Street meets Kickstarter. Because really, if you look at Kickstarter products and the way that they start, there is, my dad is a pure numbers guy, and he's told me my entire life he'll never invest into a startup. It's a stupid financial decision, because why would you invest into something that's not making 30% revenue? That's how Wall Street thinks. And that's not a bad way of thinking, but it's how a lot of people think. And then you have people that support Kickstarter campaigns, and it's just pure passion. They see a problem with the world, and they're willing to risk their money to be a part of something on the ground floor and to see that out. And to have people with that Kickstarter mentality that follow coins from the very start, or are somewhere along that innovation, curve of, what's that Simon Sinek with law of a diffusion of innovation? That first 2.5%. Or 5%, whatever it is, it's so early is all I'm saying, and what I'm getting at. And so for us to teach people and direct them, and I think there's a tendency whenever you get into crypto, and I know some of you have experienced this and now you're more experienced, but it's overwhelming. It's still super overwhelming for me. I'll read white paper and I'm just like, I have no idea why they are doing this protocol versus this protocol, and I don't even know what this means. And, there's many times where I'm like, man, like, I don't know if I should be teaching someone, or I don't know if I should be giving advice. And I think that's what's beautiful. This industry is so broad. And so when you look at the utility of a specific coin, there's so much disruption happening in industries. If you find something you're passionate about, something you love, whether it's music and publishing, and so you're attracted to Poe, or you're concerned about regulation, and Leon is, and he was attracted to Ripple. There's just so many fantastic opportunities for us to really sink our teeth into and get involved with. So don't want to ramble with anything more on that note. I'm going to pass it over to Leon. And just, really excited to hear his thoughts. I mean, we've chatted a little bit about regulation and what to expect, but really looking forward to hearing his thoughts as a whole there. And I think I don't know if he was going to tell a quick story about Ripple, but I think this is just a really good perspective because like I at times I want to trade like high volume and be very frequent, get in and out. And he just told me some numbers on some of his friends that invested early on in January and the ROI and the value of finding a high utility very early on and not wavering with selling and buying and the benefits of that and not having to sleep with your phone right next to you checking as most of us do. So with that being said, Leon, I got my notepad out, excited to learn from you for the next 15 and then we'll break it into some discussion.
Okay, awesome. I'm just gonna keep an eye on the clock here because, yeah, like Brett was saying, one of the things that we want to do is we want to do more of these calls and have more interactions and keep things a little bit more short and concise. Yeah, I'll give you guys a quick story about, for those of you that don't know our Ripple story. Like I got introduced to Bitcoin back in 2009, 2010 when a bunch of my I was going to study computer science in school. So a lot of my computer science friends they got introduced to Bitcoin like at that time, and they were using like their CPU, like literally like their laptop. They were mining Bitcoin on their laptop. And I thought it was a joke. I'm like, you're mining what? Like people are going to do what with this? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And I just brushed off Bitcoin ever since. I got introduced to Ripple, or I found Ripple in 2014. And it was the first time that I realized a digital currency can have a utility where it's not just a transaction between two people. It actually can solve a problem in the world, which is, what Ripple basically does. And so when I found out that Google had a bunch of money in Ripple, like they backed it a while back. There was some major banks around the world that were adapting. They were going to start implementing like the beta phase. They were just going to test out some of the protocols with Ripple to see how fast they can do the transfers, how much money they're going to save and stuff like that. And then at the beginning of this year, I think it was the National Bank of Abu Dhabi. They made a huge announcement that Ripple they were going to integrate Ripple, and they're like they're a pretty large or substantial size bank. So what I did was I was going to buy a bunch of Ripple, and then I was going to pay employees through it, where in countries where you can't increase their wages because it's not allowed. Like there's a maximum type of wage. So that, for manufacturing and stuff like that. So it's more efficient for our other countries to come to their country and do manufacturing. But so the idea that I have, last year was the biggest year financially for me, with a very small investment. And I don't disagree with day trading. I day traded my way to a substantial amount of Bitcoin. But anything that I ever traded in, one of the things that I'm going to tell you guys is, like, I read this book, Tony Robbins, Money Master the Game. And there's a few principles in that book that talk about like hedging, like basically protecting the upside, like minimizing your downside and maximizing your upside. And I know tons of friends. Actually, the saddest thing is there was a friend of mine who bought XRP the day that I bought XRP, and I bought XRP at 0.0036. If you guys do the math on what the price is today, that's like a 54,000% ROI, right? Like, I'm going to give you guys an example. There's people in Vietnam that invested $1,000 into Ripple. They bought $1,000 worth of Ripple. Their net worth today is $550,000 US. Those people have won the lottery in Vietnam. Like you can't spend that money in Vietnam. Like it is a lot of money. So when we started up this group, like some of my friends, like the reason this group came about was because a lot of my friends looked at me and said, wow, you're lucky. My name's Leon, but they call me Lucky. And the thing is, like, I learned from this book, for example, if you're going into a trade, you have to understand long-term and short-term. So if you are getting into trading, I don't want to get into trading because I'm not a professional trader. I'm considered the professional hodler. I people in ad bank, like my team in ad bank, like my friends, my family, they're like, man, like you have all this Ripple, like sell it. It's at 40 cents, sell it. It's at 60 cents. Damn it, like you should have sold some of it. And I'm like, nope. I bought into the technology. I understand where this token's going. The technology is not even implemented yet. Like these tokens are not doing anything that they were supposed to do yet. And if I sell it now, I'm just cutting myself short. They're like, no, man, it's 70 cents. Like people call me at $1. They're like, man, you should have sold at least 20%, at least cash something out. It went to $2.20. It's at stabilized around like $2.20 right now. A friend of mine called me up, the guy who bought Ripple with me, the first guy that bought Ripple with me, and he was contemplating suicide because he was like, I fucked up. And he's like, I fucked up everything I've done this year and I just keep fucking up. And he's like, I'm sick of it. And he's like, I shouldn't have sold. And I'm like, the biggest thing, the main thing for me, it's human life. Like, I mean, you know, I don't understand why somebody would sleep beside their phone looking at the charts and looking at the dollars when we're trying to make money to live a good life. Everybody wants to make money to live a good life. If I gave you $1 billion and put you in a jail cell, what good is that $1 billion? It's not worth anything. If you can't explore the world, you can't spend time with people you love. And so when we put this group together very quickly, like with this the Ripple story kind of transcended into another, I kind of went off track, but the the mentality is if you haven't read this book and you're looking to get into trading, I definitely recommend it. It's by Tony Robbins. Um, he explains like how to basically make sure every position that you're in, you position yourself to win and you position the minimum that you could lose. So there's a position where you're just going to hold on to that asset and you're not going to sell it. Even in stocks, he talks about like breaking your portfolio down. I'm not going to break it down for you, but I really recommend that you read that book because that book, it got me through 2017 as a winner, right? In terms of if you guys are going into looking into ICOs, like we launched AdBank. For those of you, most of you on this call probably know about AdBank already. It took us a few weeks to go through all the like legal stuff. We had to go through like a law firm. We had to be in compliance. The main thing that throws companies out of compliance is marketing. So if you guys are on Facebook, first of all, Canadians in the United States are not allowed to participate in an ICO that they're being advertised. So if you clicked on a link that you were advertised, that company is breaking the law in Canada and the US to allow that person to participate. In the US, it's even worse because in the US, in order for the company to be compliant and for the participant to be compliant, the participant has to be an accredited investor. I'm just saying this to you as like, if you want to play inside the rules and not get in any kind of trouble, that is what you're looking at. So there are companies that try to launch in Belize. There's companies that try to launch in Barbados. We were thinking about launching in Barbados, but then we would probably never be allowed to step back into Canada because we would have taken Canadians' money illegally. Right. So that is when you're looking at regulations, make sure the company that is promoting to you, they're not promising you any returns. They're not saying this coin's going to go 5x or 10x or 100x. And as soon as you see that, it's a red flag. Because we know in our company that our law firm even said that if we were to make any sort of claims, they would drop us as a client. Number one. Number two, if you guys are looking into ICOs, look at tokens that have a real life utility, and don't just research the coin, but take a step back and research the industry that it's going to disrupt. Like for example, if any of you were looking into AdBank and you didn't understand the ad space and you didn't understand how digital advertising works, take a step back out of the ICO, like stop, go into the like research digital advertising and say like, is there a fraud problem? Are there bots that are eating up the advertising dollars? Are there middlemen that are advertisers frustrated that the middleman's taking all their dollars and not delivering it to the publishers? Like, is all that an issue? If you can vet that problem is a real thing, then you go back to the currency, and then you start researching the white paper and everything like that. Because if you go through, like, our white paper is 100 pages. What if there was no problem with advertising? What if advertising was perfect? Now you just wasted time reading a 100-page white paper. So I stress it enough. Like, when I got into Ripple, I made sure I understood that there was a banking problem. I understood that there was a delay when you take money from the U.S. and you try to deliver it to Vietnam. And I did it. We did a $50,000 transfer. It took 7 days, 7 business days for our money to be transferred over. And banks are doing billions of dollars. And so when you look at the SWIFT and you look at the delay, you look at the transactions, you look at the number of hands that it has to cross before it goes from country to country. Like, one of the things that I found out was if you exchange US dollars, like if you're doing, because in Vietnam, they deal with US dollars. So if I'm Canadian and I'm taking $100,000 from Vietnam and I'm trying to transfer it to Canada, it actually goes to the US first because it's the US dollar, and then it gets transferred to Canada. And Chase, the bank Chase, they have their foot in that infrastructure to make sure that they can count all the money that is transacted in US dollars. Ripple just does it directly, and it settles it in like 3 to 4 seconds, right? And when I invested in it, it returned a massive ROI, and we haven't even hit utility yet. So for me personally, I like to hold long term. I like to hold tokens that I got in before the tokens were utilized, before the project is actually implementing those tokens into the infrastructure. And then I look at what is the roadmap. Like if it's 5 years from now, I wouldn't invest in it now. I don't want to wait that long. But if it's 12 months to 24 months, I would probably just keep it as my long-term portfolio. So I have a few accounts. And the main thing that I do is I have 3 accounts that I never access. I don't even look at it. I don't care about it. It's my long term. I'm gonna retire on those. So I just leave it in my long-term wallets. I have a short-term wallet. I haven't traded in the last few weeks, but when I do trade and I do want to get into coins and I do want to kind of, buy the dips and whatever, I only trade with what I'm willing to lose. And then if I lose it, I was willing to lose it in the first place. That I don't sweat it. The other thing is, again, like, we don't really want to get into trading and stuff like that, but I know everybody on this call is interested in trading. It's just that if you are going to be trading, understand that there's a lot of power in a long-term hold. So if you're in a position, just separate the two. So keep a wallet where you just don't look at it, you're not tempted, you don't go into it, and you just keep it. Like, if my friends that started with Ripple with me, if they actually kept 20% in a long-term hold, they would have made so much money today, right? And the thing is, Ripple's not even being utilized yet. So same thing with AdBank. For me, people are like, oh, when you get paid, because we only, as co-founders of the company, we only get paid in tokens. Like, we're not getting paid money. Like, we're all incentivized by the tokens, so we have to make sure that the company is successful, because if we get paid in tokens and the token holders, there's a, we're aligned with what you're aligned with, or what everybody else is aligned with. The other thing is, if an ICO tells you that they're going to be listed on an exchange and they're in North America, that's actually illegal. So they can't actually pursue an active listing on an exchange. I mean, there's going to be, like, we have some whales that bought some tokens. If they put it on an exchange, they can do whatever they want, but we are not, as a company, allowed to look at an exchange. So we're not allowed to go and negotiate deals or give them tokens or pay them and say, hey, list our tokens on there. Because technically, if we're doing that, we're basically saying that our token has no utility. And I think in terms of compliance, it's marketing. It's also get to know. See if you can get to know the team. I could tell you the only reason AdBank has moved as far as it's moved is because our team brings so much value. Everybody brings so much value in everything that they do. Like our CTO, the last project he worked on, the last ad project he worked on, got bought by Google for $23 million. Right? He knows his stuff. He knows patents. He knows the ad space. He's worked on massive projects. Angelo and Kelsey, they've worked with Revlon and Tesla. They launched the Tesla Model X in Canada, like huge credibility in terms of like what they're bringing to the table, and the type of companies that they can onboard onto our ad bank platform is huge. Like John, he owns 6,000 publishing websites. Like I don't know anybody else that owns that many websites, right? And they're all active businesses. For myself, I've just been obsessed about blockchain. Like my goal is to bring change into the world. Like I want to see blockchain really disrupt all these industries. And then the last thing I would look for is I would look for the community. What are the communities saying? If everybody's talking about Lambos and getting rich, and really listen to the community and the way that they speak, because if you're sitting there with a bunch of people that are just like, I'm just going to get rich off of this, they're going to dump that token the second it's on an exchange, and now you don't have you don't have a community around it. That token is weak. That project is not going to have support. One of the blessings that we have with the ad bank is like we've really taken the time to educate the people that are coming in. We didn't want to just say, hey, ICO here, give us your money. We really like, that's what Brett was instrumental in, and Austin and Kanoa, and a few other guys here. And I don't know if Trung's on this call, but some of these guys, they really delivered the message positively. Like they talked about utility, they talked about the actual viability of this project in a space that is much needed, like in a growing industry, a growing problem in an industry. So the conversations that go on in the community is a very that is probably, to me, the most important thing. Like I realized when I bought XRP, nobody was talking about it, but all the banks were excited about it, because they were like, we're not going to get cut out of this whole cryptocurrency space. We're going to adapt into it. And I'm like, who has more money than banks? Like almost nobody, because we give our money to the banks. So I'm not sure if I missed anything.
No, there is the only thing that I was going to add, Leon, and just touching on the community thing, and we want to do this with Crypto Collective, is asking the right questions, like he just said. Like whenever you see questions, and it's not, I'm not trying to rag on anyone, but when you ask what's a good coin under 50 cents, I mean, that's such an arbitrary question, because it's like, what's the coin supply? What's the market cap? I mean, there's a lot of mathematical questions, but really what you're asking is, I want to make money fast, and I don't care about what it is. And there's going to be, with a market this volatile, if you do have a losing position, as Leon says, you want to be able to hold it and not freak out if it drops, 50%, 60%. Because you're like, hey, I'm in this for the long haul. If I need to be, even if you are a day trader, it's better to trade on things that you can hold on to for the long term. So I just want to touch on that, like asking what the price is, and also to one other thing we want to improve in our group. And I look for this in other communities as well, is this a good coin? What do you guys think about VeChain? And it's like, as someone who's doing research, and you guys, as you start researching these coins, you realize it takes hours upon hours upon hours to look at the team, look at the community, look at the white paper, see the utility, see the problem in the industry. And so for you to just go, hey, like, what do you think of this coin? It like, yes, that is valid to a certain extent. But if you do 5 minutes of research, you can go, listen, hey, I saw this and I caught this and I saw this article on Forbes, and am I correct? Am I thinking here? And you don't have to be correct, but give a statement that's controversial and that we can actually have a conversation about, versus what do you think? You do the homework for me. And I think wherever you go, whether that's just on your Facebook profile or a Crypto Collective or anywhere, those are the appropriate conversations, and you're going to attract so much more high level people to that debate, and you're actually going to gain a lot better information, and people are just going to take you a lot more seriously. And as I said, I'm new to crypto. A lot of us are, and that's okay. That's not a reason to not ask questions, but we also have to just not be lazy. And get to the next thing. I don't know if you want to touch on that, Leon, but I'm ready to go into some Q&A after this. I'm pretty pumped for that.
Yeah, like I guess the only thing I'd add to that is, when you're gonna ask a question in the group, like, ask yourself this: if I post this right now, is this is this going to provoke thought? Did I put enough thought into the content of this question? Like, did I put any of my input into this question? And are people going to be compelled to answer this intellectually instead of just throwing out, like you said, like what are some, coins under a cent or 5 cents or 50 cents or whatever. And then, people will just throw these coins at you and you don't know. So what we want to do is we want to create, like, the reason we call it crypto collective is so that we could all come together and bring, like, I may see a point of Ripple that nobody else saw. You may see something in AdBank that nobody else saw, and then somebody else might look at this other project and say, oh well, like, what about this angle? And literally, like, now we start to collectively come together, and this group is valuable, because if you look at every other group, everyone's like, what should I buy, what should I sell? John McAfee's buying this and selling this, and you have all this, like, crazy. It's just like blind man following blind man, and there's nothing, like, you're just like, 2017 is not going to be the, like, 2017 was just lucky. Anybody that says I'm your guru because they made $1 million in 2017 is a liar, because 2017 you could have dropped $100 into something and it went like stupid. Regulations are coming. I mean, we don't know what day it's coming, but it's coming this year. So you want to position yourself to become an intelligent trader or an intelligent investor. I consider myself, when I look at how much I trade and how much I invest, I'm more of an investor. I prefer, like, I've come to the realization, I see all these videos on Instagram, and I'm like, I see all these people posting lifestyle about, like, trading, and I'm so compelled to just be a trader, because I'm like, I want that lifestyle. But then when I think about it, I'm like, I can have that lifestyle in just investing. Like, I know a lot of people that don't trade anything. They invest into real estate, they invest into currencies, they invest into the stock market, and they make their net worth is a few $1 million, right? So the what I would say is that when you're getting into this and you're asking questions in the group, let's try and spark, like, a lot of intelligence into those conversations. When we reply, let's go and take a link. Like, if you're going to tell somebody, I think this is a good project and these are the things, like, let's start listing out, like, the pros and the cons. Let's start, like, hashing out, like, I don't think this is necessary. Like, let's somebody jump in there and say, hey, what about scalability? Like, this is like $1 trillion problem, but this thing seems like it only scaled to like 200 million. Like, where's the gap? Like, how are we going to bridge that? And then what happens is, everybody in the group is going to go out there and try and search different areas. They're going to go, one guy's going to go to this place, and then this, maybe someone's got an in with a company. Like, I've got an in with, I'm in AdBank. Like, I own, like, a percentage of AdBank. I've got an in with PivX. I've got an in with Hedge Token. Like, I've got an in with, like, some of these companies where we can have inside conversations with them to see, like, the operation of how this thing works. So we don't know, like, I'm not the only one in this group that has that. Like, someone's cousin here is going to launch a program, someone's aunt's going to launch a company. Like, we're going to have this community is going to grow. And, like, I'll give you an example. Like, I go back to Ripple because that was my first, I bought Ripple before I bought Bitcoin. Like, it's one of my, it's it's something that I love the fact that it introduced me to utility. But we built a group on Facebook. That group grows at a rate of 2,000 to 4,000 people a day. And in that group was a VP of a bank. And literally, when she saw the conversations that were, like, we were having some really thought-provoking conversations, she stayed in the group. She left all the other Ripple groups, and now we've made her an admin in the group. And now that she's an admin, we're growing. We could be growing, like, it. We have 120,000 engagements a week on any post that happened in that group, because everybody's bringing a piece. Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Hey, my uncle works at this bank. I know somebody that works in that bank, and I was told, like, I'm dating this girl that works at Coinbase, and they're telling us this. And it's growing real interest, and more people are buying Ripple, and people's net worth is going, like, that token is just doing some crazy thing. We want to take that and bring it here, and we want to allow people to now participate in other tokens and, like, actually understand why they're investing in it. So be a part of that. you know, that's all I'm going to say is like, be really like, just take it on and just be a part of that. And like, let's consider this, every person here owns this group, you know, and as we grow, we're bringing in owners. Everyone's coming in and saying, you know, as an owner, how would I want to respond to this? And how would I want to engage in this? And I mean, we've already like, I've seen it happen. We can build the best community on Facebook and be the example. Like everyone's going to be like, whatever they're doing, we got to copy it. And we want everybody to copy what we're doing. So then we change the entire landscape of blockchain and how we talk about it.
It's exciting stuff, man. You got me pumped up. Oscar just texted me. He's like, yeah, you need to move your camera down so people can actually see your face. So that's awesome. I appreciate you, dog. So yeah, so let's keep this conversation moving. So